Hey,
Hello.
what's up?
Doing all right. Doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, things are going well. At a big yeah, how are you? All good?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm getting into a much better groove now. Yeah, just with all of it. I mean, just focusing better at home, actually being more intentional about messages, like just feeling overall pretty positive.
Glad to hear it. I'm getting I'm like getting my workflows down to try to really like level up my content game, let's just say. Uh I started a little bit like warming the oven on like my personal branding a little bit, but then I took a step back because I have to kind of like figure out how to do all of the social channels for all of like the Pursue Networking social channels and breaking it all up. And then because the reason I'm saying this to you is I'm essentially doing what you're doing, but on like a macro level. And then I don't even really know what the answer is. But trying to like figure out my workflows. And then what I'm actually trying to do is to figure out like how do I post in a lot of different like TikTok and YouTube, Instagram, and then maybe like choose which ones I like to then reshare to my LinkedIn network. So because it's like there's too much content as
Right.
kind
Right. Yes. Welcome.
yeah, it's like there's too much content, but I want to be like, and it's one thing to kind of like post the most on like all the social channels because it's like let the algorithm decide. And I'm trying to like attract people, but like I want to be somewhat strategic on the storytelling that I'm doing from my personal brand side. So I don't want to overwhelm those people by posting all the time, like every little short little clip. Um, so
You
having
want it to be impactful, not just, well, right, like you said, the volume is a thing, but there's also wanting to have that greater reach for per post.
yeah, that's the yeah. Also, it's like different storytelling. I mean, it's the same thing. I'm talking to you. It's like I'm trying to like figure out how to do it on my own. Like here, a little. Uh, so over the last few weeks, I gotten a few of my posts to go over 1,000. So for me, that's like viral on the lowest level because it demonstrates that for whatever reason, those are the ones that the algorithm like this one, and that one. And then some of them have gotten 400 views. So not like as good as the thousands, but then you see some of them have like, the 400s, but then you see some of them got like 70 views. Now my views are going up. But it takes a little while. Let's just see. Like this one I posted, it was a video of us. I'm starting to do that, but that got like no views. But that was a video versus a short. So the shorts get more views.
Mhm.
I posted this one like 5 minutes ago. We already posted this one though for my to my LinkedIn account. You have seen this one.
Yeah.
But it got no views so far. This one I posted earlier got one view. So I'm kind of like tracking. This is what I posted yesterday, and over the day it got 184, 361. But then 2 days ago, this one got two. So
I
you
mean,
see,
that
like,
makes sense that shorter snippets.
well, all of these are shorter snippets.
Right. Oh, mine, the first one too?
Well, this
Oh,
one,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but this one I literally posted, I think, like 6 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, like, that's not a fair. That's another thing. You got to wait like 24, 48 hours before you let the algorithm until, like, you're not going to get views so quickly. So, this
Yeah.
is actually like a bad. I mean, I think I posted
It's
this.
just right. It hasn't had time to make the rounds, if you will.
Yeah. But so it's like, okay, well, how do I use. So, it's like, I'm always trying to see, like, how do I use YouTube and then Instagram as a voting machine to then I'm also posting it to my LinkedIn, but I don't really have a lot of to be honest, I'm doing this more for workload purposes than to try to like really like figure out how to grow on LinkedIn. So I just posted this 15 minutes ago.
What do
I'm
you mean
not really,
for
yeah,
purposes?
it's the same thing. I'm just trying to figure out like how to post into multiple places. So these are the same posts. Um, these don't get a lot of views, but it's because I don't really have a lot of followers. Um,
Sure.
and I feel like for LinkedIn, because this is my point of telling you this, is the way that I feel like I could get more followers is being strategic about choosing which ones to then share to my network, like maybe a few days later. So you saw the post that I
Okay.
did a couple weeks ago when I was warming the oven. What I did for those was I posted directly to my network, which is one way of doing it.
Mhm.
But this is actually the same video that I posted to my network, and that got a few views, a few reactions, whatever. But what I want to start doing is to share this Pursue Networking with,
On your personal LinkedIn.
yeah. So it's like, well, then I could basically copy this link and then go here and then tell my personal like story and then
Yeah.
do this. And you see now it's going to do this with this. So it's like a more packaged
Yeah.
post that then would drive people towards
Yeah.
Pursue Networking. So, and I actually think that the package of personal story from me with value driven content from this, I'm hoping you do that consistently and even selecting which one. This is what I'm actually going to do is like, well, I want to share this one, like the ones that got the bigger views, choose
Yeah.
those and then share those with my network. So
Yeah.
if the algorithm said that people liked that one for whatever reason, like this one, I have a higher confidence that like I'm not sharing all of them with my network, but I'm choosing which ones I think are a little bit more impactful. So
Yeah.
I'm starting to post a lot more to YouTube to use as a voting machine to then figure out which ones to reshare. It's kind of
That
my,
makes a ton of sense. It
yeah.
actually kind of ties into something I was thinking this week too, that I had written a couple possible personal, I hadn't been prioritizing posting on my personal LinkedIn. I was putting my energy elsewhere. And then it was like, oh, well, no, we've talked about this. It's something I should do. But then the post that I was creating, it just felt a little too vulnerable. It was too much. That's professionally, yeah, sure, it might be real and raw, but it's not really it's not the brand I want to put out there for myself. So I like the idea, exactly what you're saying, of like, I can be bullhorning, the exciting things we're doing at the company. That's also very much my, related to my brand, and like put a little anecdote about maybe something from a personal lens up top. But I like the idea of just using it as another platform to scream it from the mountaintops, these cool things that we're doing with Spectrum Strategies. Yeah, right. If I can have a little personal lens on it, I will. But otherwise, even just, do you think it would be just sharing it to my personal page without an added narrative, personal narrative? It feels like a missed opportunity. Is it better than not posting at all?
No, I think it's definitely better. I think it's better to post because it's missed opportunities. But
Either way,
what
right.
I think on LinkedIn, the best way to do it, if you could do it well, which is hard because you got to do both, is to have a good business branded post for your company page, knowing that that's probably not going to get a lot of views because you don't really have a big brand. And
Right.
then eventually, even if it's not like immediately, like, post those and then choose which ones you want and then reshare those with the anecdotes, because I feel like it packs a deeper punch with branding associated with it. And then you could pick and choose which way. You don't always have to do that. You could just post one if you think it kind of depends on how good your content is from the company page. If it's or not even how good, how helpful you think it is. Like, for example, if you're just posting little quotes, and you think it might be a little repetitive, then maybe you pick and choose strategically. For me, since I'm having all this like video content and also like a voting machine, and I want to start posting more of our content, I actually feel like this content's helpful. Like, I think that like it's relevant, it's short snippets. I also think that like it's hard to do this video stuff operationally, so it'll help me stand out, because I feel like the reason I'm trying to do this is it's easier said than done. How do I get to a place where I'm sharing a little micro piece of video content every day?
Yeah.
to get to a place where people are like, how is he doing that?
Right.
Because most people I see on LinkedIn are posting images of themselves
Right.
for personal branding, which I totally get. But it's way easy. It's way harder to figure out like how to create a flywheel of micro content with different people that I'm always kind of in.
That's what I see on my feed, if I'm doom scrolling later at night or whatever. I feel like that gets passed around more, like that's more engaged with, and therefore I see more of
Images
it.
of people.
No, I just think that I am more engaged by the videos, the short videos.
Oh, yeah. Well, also, I think LinkedIn, my gut tells me, which is, why I think that in time, if you could do it well, I think video is going to make a huge over the next 18 months. I showed you like how LinkedIn has a beta version of it. I showed you that. It's in America only. If you go into your LinkedIn app on your phone, you will see in the bottom there is a video tab. It literally says videos. And when you click on the videos, it's a doom scroll like TikTok that like literally says beta in the top left-hand corner. Do you see it? It's only in America.
Oh, you said video on the bottom? Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. You see they have like an independent video tab and it says
Yeah.
beta in the
Yeah.
corner. So
Yeah.
you see they're literally trying to create like a TikTok for
Yeah.
business.
Mhm.
But figuring out how to do it well, I actually think that's what I'm trying to figure out. Because I think it's an opportunity. It's like, how do you create a flywheel of content video? I'm not saying you have to do it every day. That might be extreme for most people. But like even what we talked about, like with Debbie, how do you get like a monthly meeting or something that like gives you, because it's about consistency. It's like, how do you get something that's long, figure out how to chop it up, and then have like a calendar to be able to do it, somewhat organically. One, it'll help with Instagram and TikTok, but you also see it'll help grow brands on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Because LinkedIn's trying to figure out how to do algorithm, because that's what it is. It's like they want to be able to get to a place where if you just upload video content, they will find customers for you like TikTok does. And YouTube now does, where you just create the content, will find you people. I wouldn't say it like works great yet, but it's in beta. So like you think that with Microsoft behind it, they'll figure out how to
get there.
Yeah, they'll get there eventually. And it's not worldwide. So I mean, that's why I think it's a big opportunity even for like autism and like growing a brand in the space. In time, yes, you might have high packaged corporate training, but if you think about branding, being able to leverage Shopify to drop prices to distribute like evergreen material at lower price points, I think is actually a big opportunity for the world, because there's probably a lot of people in other countries that even corporate training, for example, that might appreciate it, but not want the hand holding, let's just say, like, or not can't afford the hand holding, but would purchase.
Want to digest it at their own pace.
Yeah. Or also like on Shopify, you could even do like, that's what Shopify is like great. It's like you could do like country specific pricing. So it's like in Europe, it's this price. And in America, it's this price. Or in Brazil, it's this price.
Wait, why would you do that?
Economics. A business might not be able to afford like a $5,000 like corporate training, but they might be able to afford just based off the currency exchange. Like for example, like a Brazilian.
Okay.
Like if you're going to charge $5,000, that's like potentially with currency exchange, like 20% more expensive.
Yeah. Yes.
Versus just having a specific price point in their currency that equates to less than $5,000. Maybe it's like $3,000, but it's all kind of relative. But you can kind of pick and choose,
Yeah. I mean, especially, so I guess where that gets interesting too is if we have an international company or a company that is global, rather. May we get so lucky, that's.
But the thing is, but that's what I'm saying with this content is you will if you create content.
Yeah.
Because the algorithms are designed to try to find relevant people who find certain things relevant, and there's more people outside of America than are in America.
This
Like,
is far from a,
yeah,
domestic thing. Yeah.
it will be. Your outreach targeting on LinkedIn will be America specific, but from a content discoverable, it becomes global.
Yeah. Well, so then how does that work? Is that wherever the company's headquarters is, that's the pricing, or is it the employee who, it can't just be it's not as simple as the employee who buys it for the company, their location. How do you know?
Well, it's based off the price point. It's based off of the IP address of the person and the currency that they're using. The credit cards, like Shopify, you can tell if it's like based off IP address where the location is, like where the source is.
Mhm.
And then they would buy it, and then you would be able to determine, like during the fulfillment process, if it's legit. Like at a certain level of scale, you might think, would somebody scam it? And you're like, well, I would say,
Right.
like,
If we're big
at
enough
the point we're being scammed, you're going to have an operational team
looking at
verifying certain things and like, yeah. So it's like, I wouldn't worry so much about that.
this is a hopeful problem down the line.
Yeah. What I would encourage you to just think through is that Shopify offers that type of infrastructure to be able to determine what makes, like, to set different price points on like a global level.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know.
Yeah. So what's new? What's your updates?
I have been this past week doing a lot better at finding other people in the space and companies, initiatives, and it's kind of a double-edged sword. I'm so glad they exist. They seem a lot, I've seen a lot of quality people, personal stories that just makes your heart, explode. But then there's the devil on the other shoulder saying, like, if these people are this far along already, are we really going to be able to make a big impact? But then I quiet those voices down by, one, I think we're going to have a great product. And if it helps one person at all, then that's worth it. And they're just great people that I feel like I just want to know. And so it's been, yeah, I actually got a wonderful response from one individual who pointed me in a direction of specific names, which has also been just really useful. And then I've been looking through. I feel like I've taken a step back from Sales Navigator the last few days and just been going through like people that they're following and just following that rabbit hole. So yeah, I think I'm up quite a few, I don't know what the right order of magnitude is to be excited about, but I'm definitely up followers, and that feels good. Debbie is touring the studio on the 28th. We're just figuring out a time. That's in their court, but I think we're unless she tells me otherwise, I think we're done with scripts. Like right now, yeah. So that's actually pretty dang cool. And so it's also been shaping a lot of my conversations with people because, of course, I want to always keep growing, but maybe that would be more for like LinkedIn content, or we can still make changes. It's not too late, but like that's less of the goal of the conversations now. I feel like it's more expanding my network for when sales come, and just trying to just see who else is in this space and just getting to know them a bit better.
Yeah. Can you walk me through the example of the conversation in which that they led you down a path, which is great? Can you walk me through maybe the like context, like what was the path there, so we could kind of understand who it was, what type of who was it, what did they say, what was your opener, how did the conversation go, just so we have a model for what a successful conversation looks like for you.
It was a pretty quick, it's actually the same gentleman from last time that we spoke about, my first connection. So I asked him for if he'd be open to chatting. And he said, yeah. consider these people are a little bit more in my actual space rather than working with the population going to college, young professionals for their first job. And so he just flat out gave a couple names, and I was able to run from that. And so I thanked him very much for his time, and took him up on his recommendation to talk to those people rather than speak with him.
And then what did you do with those people? Did you look them up on LinkedIn?
Yeah. No, I've reached out with connection requests, bless you, to all of them. And then continued down, followed their company pages, liked some posts, and just learned more about what they were doing in the space.
What were they doing in this space?
So bless you. Some of them are a one-stop for both employers and individuals. So if you're an individual looking for a job if you're on the spectrum looking for a job, you can go there to look for postings from companies that are into neurodiverse hiring, or more open to it, I should say. And then for employers, they have candidates, sources of, pools of candidates that they have their resumes, and also just to go put their postings up there. One thing I was particularly moved by as well was a peer networking group where, like, supporting, people in the workforce supporting each other with whatever kind of neurodiversity they have. It could be one-on-one, mentorship. It could also be just social events where you can talk about things that have happened with each other and how other people might resolve it, just get feedback, and also just being friendly.
First of all, I feel like you're downplaying this connection for a second, because I feel like when we started this, one of the potential add-ons of talking about how do you provide value to companies was helping them navigate the hiring process, right? We at least talked about that. And I remember in like your script or an outline, I asked the question, how do you do that? Because that's not exactly what Debbie does right now, in my opinion. Like, how do you actually like help a company source talent, or help a company, or even potentially help, if you know candidates, source jobs? But you're basically saying that you found somebody who literally does that.
A few people.
Yeah. So I actually feel like problem solved. I mean, I'm not saying at least you've I'm not saying
big viable way of like directing people, for sure.
Yeah, and also like the way that I think that it's important for you to keep in mind as you do this is that the more that did you get the connection requests?
Mm-hmm.
Acceptance, I mean?
At least a few of them.
Cool. So, did you open up a conversation?
So one of them wrote back and was just really happy to hear, I mentioned also, I'm working on this, I'd love to connect, and she wrote back, she was thrilled to hear what I was working on, that sounded wonderful too. Thanks for connecting. So I guess a good follow-up question then is, if we're like what to follow up with that, I'm not really asking for, I'm always open to feedback, but I'm not seeking feedback for the scripts now.
Yeah. This is great. I'm so excited for you. Yeah. Well, because this is also where this is part of like the software that I've developed, is like at a certain point, it's like you gotta stay organized, because you're identifying good people that today you feel like you're happy to know. And I understand that you might not be in a position where you feel comfortable reaching out to them for an ask just yet.
Right.
That's fine.
I'm happy to be connected to them, but I don't. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, your network's not high enough where it's going to be so hard to remember this, but like what you want to do is to say, okay, I want to remember maybe in like 30 days or 2 months from now to maybe I do feel differently based off of where we're at, to reach out for a meeting or an introduction, right? Because my point is, if you think about the funnel of networking, is at a certain point, it would be nice to see if you could get them on a call to introduce yourself and learn more about them. But I understand that it's a timing thing. You might not feel the need to do that right now, and you might like miss the moment. That's a vibe check. But I do think it's coming, right? So at the point where you do have a website, we have a website, the product is launched. At that point, you might want to circle back on them to kind of talk about what you're doing and what you're ready. Because that person who's already connected with companies who's already interested in what you're doing. Well, I'm not saying it's going to like lead to anything, but you'll get a yes, I would imagine, of getting a networking call.
Right. Or it's more, how can I help? Happy to chat, happy to like.
Right, because the whole idea is that you're going to introduce yourself. Like, like you're going to introduce yourself at the right time. So the way I always think about this is like, you want to try to do your best to network with A's and B's. That's the way I always think about it. A's and B's, and not C's and D's. When you're at Sales Navigator, you have a general inkling of an understanding of what you think A's and B's are, but it's hard to really know. Once you get like a connection request and you've gotten here, now you know that this is an A. I think it's an A. So, okay, we want to market as an A. You want to like mentally market as an A. You want to make sure that you kind of like remember who this person is. This way you can kind of, to be honest, move on to the next, go find more A's.
Right.
And then just stack the A's that you can. If you have a list of 5 or 6, because this is what I actually felt like, this is where you're going to get Debbie excited. Because if you could, in a meeting with Debbie, open up 5 different people that you have identified as like A's, like people. One second. Oops. You're back. If you can identify 5 different people, let's just say a handful of people that are all A's that you've connected with, that you found that you think that you could probably network with and just like open a conversation. To be honest, I actually feel like Debbie is going to like love that,
Yeah. That's a great idea. I did ask her if we can check in this week. We're going to check in on Friday, and I think I should definitely do exactly that. One thing that I was kind of curious your thoughts on, a bunch of these companies also offer coaching for other companies. They offer coaching services for helping companies with anything about neurodivergent employees. So essentially, we'd be competitors. I think it's good to obviously see what each other's doing, and like I'm happy that more than one person can be helpful in this space. What's the ask, and why should they want to talk to me? Like if I'm going to potentially make something that would be bad for their business, why would they try to help me other than for the sake of like, this is a big issue
Right. Well, what I would say is I would always preface this with you're never asking anybody to help you, because they can self-select to help you or not. What I would like to do is you want to learn from people. You want to network with people. You want to build a relationship with people. You want to learn about what they're working on and their career, especially as you're getting started. You're realistically probably networking with people who are a little bit more advanced, have more of a network than you do, have more experience in this space than you do, are interested in kind of like learning about how I feel like you're networking up. That's kind of the goal. That's the reason that they're an A or B, I would imagine. Right. And so it's like at that point, you're just having some humbleness to kind of like be willing to hear them out and hear about their story, and then giving them a forum to share. To be honest, the psychology of this that I have found is that people kind of lean towards the way that you phrased it, is thinking that it's all about what I say. And what I have learned is that it's more about creating a space for someone to share so you can do more active listening. And if you do that well and you present yourself well and you show up asking good questions, showing genuine curiosity, what you'll find is that people will then tell you how they can help or not. But like it'll be a lot more organic where they will, for example, someone might say, well, here's how I started my career. Here's what I do now. And here are the types of people that I'm trying to like do it for. And then they'll ask you, what are you doing? And then what your ideal customer profile is. You'll at that point, hopefully maybe understand here are the kind of the businesses that we're going after. Here's what my thoughts are. And then their helpfulness might be to just, to be honest, get you oriented away from what you're doing and towards something else because they have better information. Oh, I've tried that before. You might want to stay away from that type of company. To be honest, that's what you're looking for. You thank you. And you know, that's the information you're trying to get out of a conversation anyway, is to feel more oriented in your path and demonstrating some humbleness that you don't have all the answers, but here's what you're thinking. And you would love to kind of hear their opinions on it. And I feel like if you phrase it that way, people are willing to hear you out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I see that as a huge win for me. But for Spectrum Strategies, why would they do that? Why would they want to give me that help or that feedback?
And you're saying that
because competitor, like if they're coaching for companies in the neurodiverse space, and I mentioned what we're doing.
I think that what you'll find is that competitions will, I'm not saying everybody's going to be nice, but for like certain people, I subscribe to this, is I think competition is for losers. Because if you come in from the perspective that somebody's a competitor, it usually means that you're not like looking for partnerships. I'm not saying people don't feel that way. People do feel that way. But the way I always try to think about it is how could you create win-wins? So the way that I would think about it is how do we partner with those types of people to get them to potentially resell what we're doing or partner with us? What are areas of their business that they don't enjoy doing? Maybe they don't have like a digital side of an amplification of it. I mean, the only way that you're ever going to be able to create partnerships in business is if you're willing to talk with people and hear them out and then like try to see if there's like mutual alignment, more of like a vibe check of like, do you like working with this person? So the only way you're ever going to know that.
How can we prop each other up or support each other, even work together directly down the line? But
sure. And part of it might be content, especially since I actually, again, I've always kind of thought that like what your role in this is you're not Debbie. They might view Debbie as a competitor because she's been doing this for a really long time, that they might feel more insecure, but they're not talking to you. You're like a biz dev person for the company. Yes, you could say that you're like a co-founder, like a co-owner or whatever, but your like role in this is to do business development for the Spectrum Strategies brand. So like you're like the whole reason for being is to network with these people and understand what opportunities are available to amplify each other. If anybody gives you negativity or thinks that they are a competitor, let's just say,
that's not work with anyone.
Then that's fine. Then there's, I think, enough. That's why I think competition in business in that way is for losers, because I understand Coke competes with Pepsi, but like we're not Coke. In a startup world, it's like, how do you amplify each other? Maybe there's a day where you're making a lot of money and then there's a new program on the block that is eating into your market share. But if you're talking to a consultant, it's like, how much market share do they have? Like, they don't have market share. They don't even have they have a service-based business. It's like so it's like they're an individual.
I can speak well of them to anyone I'm talking to because I know them on a personal level. I know their values.
Yeah.
That's already right there a win.
I also believe that there's a lot of, they might not. I've been in this situation before when I was like just a general service provider going in and like, maybe asking questions that people didn't feel comfortable asking. But are answering. But I never really personally thought of it as trying to like steal information from people. It was more about always trying to do diagnostics to see how we might be able to work together, is the way that I always kind of thought of it. So, for example, in your case, if you're trying to offer a digital program to larger businesses through like a blend of digital and in person, I don't know if the consultants do that exactly. They might, but I'm saying that that's kind of the question you're asking. And if they do, what's your experience like? I mean, they might start thinking about you as a competitor at that point when you're doing a lot of diagnostics, but because you're not Debbie, you could pivot if you feel a weird vibe to talk about business operations. Do you have any best practices on the fulfillment side of things? What challenges do you run into if you're managing like how big are the HR departments that you work with? Typically, are there challenges that you've kind of run into when it gets above 10, 15 people? I mean, I actually find that people will answer those types of questions. If you start kind of asking like information about, the nuances of their chapters in their program,
That,
they
yeah.
might get a little bit more uncomfortable, but I feel like you'll be able to read the room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, even from some of these messages, like you can tell, yeah, exactly. Just read between the lines of the messages of one, if something maybe was not the best question or where to go with the conversation. Okay. So for people who were writing back, happy, just going back to our original topic of people wrote back, okay, yeah, happy to connect. You're saying check back in a little bit. Is it the right time to follow up and say, like, I don't want to call right now?
Right. So this is why you got to double down on content.
Okay.
Because you can, I understand that. So you could close the loop. I mean, you could say nothing and just let it go and then post content and they'll probably see it. That's one. Or you could say something like just some, I don't know how, like what, like give me an example of like, how did the conversation end? It was literally like, nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. And then it just died down, or have you not said anything? They just connect with you?
It was just a response to my connection request with the note.
Did they respond though? Or do they just say,
So hold on one sec. I'll just pull up the last one. That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for reaching out. And that's the end of the message.
Yeah. So I would say there's two options here. One, you could introduce yourself and say, go down the path of opening the conversation further to like build it out. That's what I usually do. So it's like, absolutely, I'm happy that we're connected. This is something that I'm working on. Depending on what they do, how's your, I admire what you do as well. Right. Just to kind of like, I don't want to say just personalize it to see if you could open a conversation. That's one strategy. Or if you're not ready for that, just close the loop and say, I appreciate the connection. Thank you. You could even still say, I admire what you're doing. We're working on some cool things. I hope that one day we could kind of connect and just close the loop to kind of at least foreshadow what you're doing and then start posting. And then in 30, 60 days, it's easy to reopen to say, hey, I hope you're all well. We never got an opportunity to actually meet. I would really love to learn from your experience. If there's time to have like a networking call, I would love to share with you what I'm working on and learn more about like what you work on.
Right. Okay. So at least,
I just feel like it's important. It's like in normal discourse to like not respond, like say something. Yeah. Don't just walk away. I mean, I'm not saying you have to like get into detail, just like close the loop, keep track of it, reopen it. This is, just like the nurturing part of it is where you're at now. This is why it's exciting to me that you found an A, and you've identified A's. Now you've moved from knowing how to find good leads, connecting and opening the conversation. And now we're moving into like nurturing and sales a little bit, which is slightly different. And it's not about having a specific intention. It's, to be honest, a lot more about organizing yourself and making sure that you're being a little proactive in just managing the relationship.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, I mean, right now I'm just relying on like the LinkedIn messages, you know, if I get a new message, it'll tell me.
Yeah.
I know we've talked about organizing into different loops on Sales Navigator. I'm not sure I'm there yet. Yeah, let's see. I mean, I have a list of people I can show Debbie on our call of just like people who've responded to my connection request positively, that I think I can follow up and do what we just talked about, close the loop for now, or.
Yeah, I would just close the loop for now and focus more on branding.
Yeah.
Because branding is the secret sauce to getting good at talking one to many and also creating inbound for yourself. Because what I would say is, let's just say, if, like, what's the ideal end goal? The ideal end goal is if you close the loop and you post a lot, they reach back out to you.
Right,
So,
right.
hey, Sarah, I would love to talk to you, right? You never know. I'm not saying that's going to happen, or you're like anticipating that's going to happen. But if you do good enough branding, you would hope that certain people in the space want to learn more about what you're doing and like seeing how they can support you. And I do believe in time that will happen. But that's all about more brand than sales.
So I'm contemplating, there's a chance I might do a last minute trip in early May to New York and be in the same space as Debbie. And I'm wondering if maybe we shoot some, like, just see what happens. Like, let's just try some interactions. I like, whether it's with me, whether it's with other people, if I can overlap. I don't think she's going to have the skills group that week. Because maybe we can talk about, like you were saying, that the videos get a lot, the shorts, like being able to create shorts. If that's something I can start to play around with, just to have more meaningful content to post.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. That's great, but I don't want you to get boggled down on saying that what you write is not meaningful.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and that is true.
I'm not saying, like, I agree that like video and multimedia is more interactive and like maybe a little bit more interesting, but I don't want to downplay thinking you haven't even really posted anything that like you're already thinking about how to like avoid what your stories are.
Yeah. Well, I just posted. I was feeling pretty blah about the last company post I just put up there. I liked what you said about getting out of your way, that if like you're hung up on a picture, just post without a picture. That's fine.
Yeah.
And so that was sort of what happened this last one. I'm just pulling it up. It was just text. It was pretty lackluster in terms of glitz and glam, but I think the content is good. I firmly stand behind what I wrote. I did get one solidly good visual from the 4.0 ChatGPT that you introduced me to last call. So thank you. And I'm definitely going to continue using that. You do have to edit. It's not perfect, but it's definitely better than it was. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this. So I think I have a good vein on LinkedIn for people I want to chat with. There's so many more people I need to connect with, but like I see where that could go. So then switching my priorities back to maybe a bit more heavy on the quality social media, consistent quality posts.
Yeah.
I created one that I liked and then realized it was much more salesy. Like I saved it for when we're down the line, and actually trying to push sales.
You haven't posted anything from your personal account, right?
I know.
Yeah. So I feel like that should be the goal, right? Start posting something.
Yeah. I feel like it's easier from the brand. I don't know why.
I mean, but you can do both. Is it really that? I mean, I'm not saying you're right. It's easier from the brand, but why can't you do both? Especially considering that the brand only has 22 followers.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's the other thing is I'm like, am I really going to be embarrassed and so perfectionist about this? Like, no one's going to see it.
Well, we'll just see it anyway. And
right.
then I'm not saying that you have so many followers, but you have 345. So there's a higher probability that someone sees that than this. That's, I think, why it's easier to do the company one, because you anticipate nobody's going to see it. Whereas people probably will see the 345, especially considering that you don't know that these people might, if you post somewhat consistently, some of these people that you're talking to might actually
surprise me with.
Yeah, I'm not saying this right. They might like it, right? Engage with it. They might comment on it. They might just do something to show support that makes it easier for you to open the conversation. Whereas right now you might be overthinking, well, what do I say next? When you might not have to, because they might, what you might say next is you might see that they like what you do. And so it's like, well, I saw you engaged on my post. I would love to chat with you.
Yeah. Well, and I'm curious too, if some people in my network from, years ago will also just have thoughts or be happy to see it, or,
Oh, probably will.
Yeah. I mean, I could do something that's more like hey, I've been pretty quiet on this up till now. I want to, explain this initiative I've been working on for the past couple months, or the last year. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
Something in that.
Yeah. What a small exercise that you can do to just maybe get you out of your comfort zone to like get the ball rolling would be to think through, like, take that post of what you just said, the story of the entrance into here, write one more long like version of it, like with a beginning, middle, and end, and then chop it up into multiple posts. So you have a couple weeks worth of like an entry point into like a story. So it's like, start with maybe like where you were like with the end of your career, right? Just like some like storytelling around like, this is what you have been doing. You could have a couple posts about that. This was like the transition that you kind of saw as like an opportunity to learn and be entrepreneurial, learn about like posting on social media, right? Have a few posts about that, and then transition into kind of like building a new company, Spectrum Strategies, like what you're working on, right? So it's like basically you take one big thing that you just said, but it's like, okay, but how you could probably create like 2 weeks, 3 weeks worth of posts where if somebody's following, they're kind of like, because this isn't, you don't have to like this could all be like little micro pieces here or there. And then if somebody goes and they can read if they're following over a span of a couple of weeks, they start getting what you're doing.
Yes. And I mean, it's summarized in the about me section, like, the punchline, the ending spoiled, if they read that. But if I were to like go back and talk about the experience of switching fields, like that kind of thing, you're saying go back.
Yeah.
Like about the end.
I'll get like, okay, so here, let's get kind of specific in this. So, because I understand what you mean. So like, if I'm looking at your about section, you're saying, my professional journey began in speech pathology, working with adults in rehab hospitals to regain speech, language, and swallowing functionality. Okay, think about that experience. Were there some lessons learned or things that you did like about that, or things that you liked but didn't like about that, right? So you could write a couple of posts about that, right? Because that is already done. So you have all the information. So, at least kind of thinking through like what are some things that you could kind of say from that experience of things that you did like about that part of the job and or didn't like part about that job. I really like working with people for these reasons. I really enjoyed my coworkers for these reasons, right? Because you're trying to engage those people anyway. So thinking through kind of like the thing that I want you to kind of think through is I think that the best type of content is more about like storytelling and not like top 3 things that I learned, right? Because everyone can kind of do that with ChatGPT. So make it authentic to you. But I'm saying that like based off that side of your existence, like you already have some things that you could talk about, things that you maybe enjoyed about that part of your career or lessons learned of like what you're trying to bring into the next chapter of your career, what you like maybe about what you didn't like pre-COVID, maybe when you were doing that, like how life changed. I don't know, whatever you want to talk about that's relevant to you about that side of your career, you could start. And then you say, I saw firsthand how small adjustments could have a life-changing impact and how systems weren't always designed to support people with different needs. Okay, well, you could extrapolate a lot on that. Like, what are some examples of that?
Sorry, I was still thinking about like experiences as a speech therapist, like what
your next sentence in your about after that is I saw firsthand how small adjustments could have a life-changing impact and how systems weren't always designed to support people with different needs.
Oh, for sure. In speech and in one workplace.
You see that those are super relevant posts that now projecting to people of what your current interests are. So extrapolating on like, are there examples of systems? Like what does that mean?
So I feel like patient client stories, obviously without any identifiable information, more than like my experiences with coworkers, maybe.
Sure. Yeah.
Just right. Like, if I was with, someone who was having trouble speaking and we like did an excursion to a store somewhere, something like.
Yeah. And then having a takeaway of like you kind of realizing that the experience that people have really changes their physiology. Like you've seen it firsthand about like how like somebody could take somebody and change their disposition based off of like a preordained whatever. Then you could say, this is why I'm really looking forward to the new chapter of my career to try to help build more systems that could create those types of effects and just kind of like keep it short and sweet. I feel like it starts giving it the way I would think about this for you is if you're trying to re-engage your network, how do you get people to learn more about you through your writing? That is not necessarily always trying to like be salesy. It's just dripping things out of like observations and being somewhat consistent about it. So do you see like just from that one paragraph from your about section, you have like, your background and like what you've done in your career type post. And then you have like realizations that you had from those experiences and what, insights you've kind of seen that might be really applicable to the people that you're networking who also kind of understand that type of stuff.
Yeah. Right. So it really just thinking through memorable times in each past. I mean, that sounds so simplistic, but like thinking through, obviously different therapy sessions or different client situations stand out when I think back on the different jobs. So thinking through what I took from it and why, and then posting about that.
Yeah. Insights, observations, lessons learned, things that maybe you did wrong that like you kind of realize why it was wrong. I think people kind of like those types of insights. I would really, where you're at, focus more on like documenting your experience than trying to like project out of like this salesy future. It's more of like documenting. I mean, even think about it from like perspective of like it would be nice maybe 6 months from now for you to look back at your post and kind of like have a documented insights that you kind of at a certain point, were working through during this chapter. I think if you do that and you kind of even just think about you're doing it for yourself, it'll attract a lot of people who are coming along like this journey for you with you.
Yeah.
You even say, I love the challenge, but I wanted my work to align with something bigger, creating environments where people of all abilities can succeed. Were there certain moments during your career where that insight was really applicable? Like why? Like what were you doing that you didn't feel that way? Like, was it the people you were working with? Was it just the fact that it wasn't yours? Like where did the yearning come from? To be honest, I actually feel like those types of stories are really relatable to a lot of people because it's kind of like the normal human story.
It's not field specific half the time.
More not at all. I mean, I would probably read it. I mean, I could. That's the people who do this well are the ones that like kind of grow on LinkedIn because you're stripping away the industry and you're focusing more on the human element. Like and do you even see? I did that with my post when I'm on a beach talking about the insights that I have about like an entrepreneurial journey.
Changing corporate.
Right. Changing corporate. Like it doesn't matter if you're a digital nomad or if you're a doctor, like everybody kind of goes through those transitions of realizing like, you thought one way and then you kind of realize that like, these are universal truths. So how do you apply that to I mean, I know that you have that and you're literally saying that, just extrapolate that into a story.
Or prove it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm just having a total highlights reel of, experiences, positive and negative, just past interactions in different roles. And I think that's a lot better than, I'm not going to say like, it's got to be more heartfelt than I really liked having a manager who I felt I could talk to and wasn't going to judge me, like, right. But stuff like watching someone who's been struggling to get their words out or a communication board, something like that, when you're used to talking verbally.
This is where ChatGPT would be very helpful because once you have the story framework that you already have, what ChatGPT will help you with is to write it in a way specific for LinkedIn. So what that means is pattern disrupts, hooks, like, because you have to like optimize around like, what's the punchline? Like say that at the beginning to try to get people to open it up and then tell your like, back up and then give them the like story of the context that led you to the conclusion. To be honest, ChatGPT kind of like does that really well with your model. That it kind of already knows that. And then you just need to like flesh it out. What you need to bring to the table is the raw story that it can help you tell that when you read it, you're like, yeah, this did happen to me. I mean, another one is like, what was your feeling when you made the decision to start Spectrum Strategies? Like what was when Debbie told you about this, what was it that led you to think through to do this? And I actually feel like there's probably a decision that you had to make the commitment that you're actually going to make this like a vehicle for yourself, right? That's a very human story. I had to quit my corporate job. You had to kind of like everyone has to make a commitment to saying, okay, I'm going to actually make this happen. And I know that it's kind of on me, but I'm at that point in my career where I feel like I can do it and I want to do it. And I have the right pieces in place and support in place to make it happen. Okay. If you articulate that type of stuff, a lot of people will then be like, even your old network, what is she working on? Yeah.
And just, no, there's a lot there. And I can vouch for, I already know that ChatGPT can organize it really well. Cause like I said, I was playing around with just feeling vulnerable stories, emotional roller coasters, whatever. And then like reading it, I was like, damn, that like, I'd like that if that was someone else's post, like it felt very real. It was a little too, I think it was a little just needier or it just wasn't the vibe I wanted to put out there yet.
Fair enough.
But but it's definitely in the right direction. And I do think talking about both situations that maybe didn't go the way I wanted them to, and did, will be very relatable.
Yes. And then you're going to have the experience that I told you that one day you're going to have, especially if you start doing this and showing a little bit more vulnerability, is you will be in places in life where people will tell you that they see you posting on LinkedIn, even though you might not get the engagement.
Right.
because people are reading it. And to be honest, that's kind of like branding and marketing. There's a higher probability if you keep putting in the reps. One, you'll find your brand voice. You'll find kind of like what you enjoy. And you also see the data of like what types of posts resonate more with your audience that will help you do it. But I don't know. I just feel like at a certain point, then because you don't need to post every day. I'm not even saying that you need to do this every day, but I think that you have enough to literally extrapolate on to get way ahead of this, to start posting a lot from your account that I actually find is a little bit easier, I think, than the company page, because you can draw from like personal experience.
Right.
The company page, I understand you might want to have a higher standard to not just like,
Well, I feel like it would be easier if Debbie was writing for the company page, because she could do for the exact same thing. She could do the personal stories for the company that maybe I don't just have in me already. But you're absolutely right that I have them in me for my own brand. I just have to let the world in.
To be honest, I actually feel like if you get pretty good at using ChatGPT and feeling like you can write as you, I think it's going to be a lot easier for you to just interview Debbie and then get her stories to kind of write for the company page in a similar way using ChatGPT with Debbie's voice. So you don't have to do that. I even what you did with the scripts, to be honest, the hardest part about that is you have to become a pretty good interviewer, because Debbie's not going to know what you're doing as you do it. And you have to extract out from her by asking good questions of what you think the audience would like to know, even in written format. Like, what are the stories that you think would be helpful to know? Because Debbie's like, you could tell Debbie to like tell you interesting things and she's not going to know what to say. You got to think through, even with ChatGPT, like how to be prepared as the interviewer to say, tell me about like what you think about when you go into a company. Like, what are the things that you're looking for, right? Or, out of that, you could probably come up with some good writing that's a little bit more informative, educational.
Other thing I'm gonna put on here is just in terms of priorities, good things to work on. Good interview questions for Debbie that will help us express who we are as a company better to the world.
Yeah.
Where is this? Interview questions for Debbie that will help shed light on who we are and what drives the company, something like that. Post on personal LinkedIn page. And frankly, not even just LinkedIn, but social media. But I feel like I got into a good groove, like finding people and liking their, like not researching, but just learning more about what they're doing. And I was really enjoying that. But I feel like now I should probably do that less and pivot. Obviously, my network being bigger will always be better.
You've entered into what I like to call the advanced placement. So congratulations, right? Because you're not a novice anymore. You know how to get results, but now you really have to figure out how to do time management. That's like operationally, that's the challenge of all of this. I mean, that's, to be honest, what I told you I was doing. It's like, okay, like how do you figure out systems of management for yourself to make sure that you don't feel like you're overwhelmed, but you can kind of flow with staying somewhat consistent. And to be honest, there's no right or wrong answer to that. I mean, and the truth is that, to be honest, in time, the best answer is to get leverage by having employees and virtual assistants. And like, the reason I said is you got to give yourself some grace that what you're doing now, you would hope would be laying the foundation for being able to build a little bit of an operation team, maybe use more systems to make it easier. But I would say, you got to think through how do you do time management. So like what I said, like I actually advanced placement, you don't need to use Sales Navigator every day. You already said that, right? You can spend an hour watching TV on Sales Navigator and probably have enough prospecting to not necessarily need to do that depending, especially at your stage, for the rest of the week. So it's like 1 hour of Sales Navigator leads to a week's worth of stuff that you're ready to go, especially because you're not like, there's no quotas you're trying to hit. It's like, I mean, maybe in time you want to spend more on Sales Navigator if you're actually trying to do sales, but you're not there. I also think that it's important to kind of make sure that you're spending some more time in conversations with people, potentially even meeting. But, week to week, that's dependent on.
I mean, I'm happy to meet with people.
It kind of depends on where you're at. And if
Yeah.
you think that's a important situation. And to be honest, I actually find that that's not always your decision. It's more of like the conversation, right? If you get a vibe from somebody that you would like to meet them and they seem open for it, why not? If you get a vibe that you think that this would be a good person, but maybe not right now, that's fine too. Then just close the loop and just notate them. And you'll get the meeting, in a month or so. And then, maybe start focusing on how do you build out a calendar for yourself to make sure that you're posting somewhat consistently.
Right.
I
put in my Google Calendar Monday, Thursday reminders, and then I just I don't know if I got distracted or ignored it. Probably.
I told you what I like to do is to set it in advance.
Right.
That's why, because then distractions come in and then you wind up not posting, and then it doesn't matter what the reason is, but you kind of feel deflated.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like I've learned this the hard way. To avoid doing that, you want to use systems. So either a scheduler or even natively in LinkedIn, they have scheduler. So it's just have it set so what are the days that you post. Is it Tuesday, Thursday? And then you kind of have that the day before set up. So you don't have to worry about it the day of. That way it actually helps with your time management. So your work is not posting, your work is creating. Because the posting is already going to post automatically.
So is it still worth, like you said at the beginning of the call, posts that are 6 tips for interviewing, inclusive interviewing, whatever practices? I think that is valuable information. Is that worth posting, or for the brand to stick more narrative or more updates about what's happening?
I think you should post that as the company page, because I don't think that you have all the answers for the company page, and it's better than not posting. And it's also to be honest, it's on Debbie to give you that information. I understand that together you can work together to make that better in time, but I actually feel like not having it dormant, showing that it's somewhat consistent and it's valuable information, is not bad. You're not going to get a lot of likes,
right?
Because you don't have a lot of followers, but I don't really view that. I don't view the engagement as kind of the point. It's more about the consistency of doing it. And I would focus more narrative format on you, because you have the ability to start building relationships that could drive revenue. Right. Nobody's going to go to the Instagram page or the LinkedIn company page and be like, oh, these 6 tips, let's shell out $10,000.
Right. No, it's more show activity and show intentions or goodwill.
But I feel like you do have the ability to build a relationship with somebody who could vouch for the work that you're putting in, or even introduce you, like you've seen, to somebody else that could lead to $10,000.
Okay. Yeah.
As the website comes alive.
Yeah. Okay. So definitely personal branding, LinkedIn posts, all platform posts if it's easy enough, when it's easy enough. And then occasional, maybe once a week, Spectrum Strategy posts as well that are hopefully more detailed. And if not, it's at least something. What I want to do is put a lot of effort into having that backlog that you're talking about, so that you can just schedule when things will get posted. I feel like now's the time to put in the work, create all of those, and then not have to do it for a while, so that I can focus on other things.
Yeah. I like to say that you have to separate out. You shouldn't create the same day that you're posting, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because if you try to do that, especially when you've never done it, you're just setting yourself up for not liking what you post versus trying to like create, stay a week ahead, have some posts. I'm not saying you have to do it. You mean you can do it the day before. It's just the moment that you're trying to sit down and do it and
I get
post
just
it.
this
Yeah,
spinning.
I just feel like you're like setting yourself up for failure where it shouldn't need to be that way. Like just have your post whenever you're going to do it and then kind of move on to the next one. That way, when you do get inspiration to sit down and do some writing, you're kind of ready to go.
Okay. Okay. Okay, very good. I wanted to pull up our timeline real quick. Here. And I think when might be a good time to, I don't want us having to put together a Shopify page super quick.
When's the recording?
The tour of the studio is the 28th. So roughly 2 weeks.
When's the recording though?
Not less, a week and a half. It depends if she likes this, if she likes the studio.
That's what I'm kind of waiting for, because if she doesn't like the studio and we're back to number one, then I like
it's not okay. Thank you. That helps though to know. So this way I can just like I'm keeping things.
I want to avoid, I'm not saying it's expensive, but I want to avoid having to pay $1. Like we pay $1 to turn on what I did. And then $1 for 3 months. So it costs $3 for 3 months.
But why
before
waste
it starts costing $30 or something like that, right? If we can't, I think it's going to take one month to kind of get it. Probably not even that long, but like let's just say 30 days to get it to a place where she'll want to switch it over. And then I do think that I think it's like $25-$30 per generic Shopify, and we'll probably add like 1 or 2 apps that would be for like courses, so like digital programs. So I think it's going to be like $100 a month, like total for like rent. But I'm just trying to avoid being in a situation where we're paying for it and like everyone's just kind of like sitting around
waiting.
No,
that's exactly what I bring it up with you. So if it makes sense to, once we have the recording date, we can talk more about when there's plenty else for us to talk about until then. That's
why I really think that it's going to, in my opinion, I could be wrong with this, but just knowing Debbie, I think it's going to get her excited a lot more when you can kind of start showing her real people who have A-B backgrounds, like objectively, that are showing positive interest of you talking to them. Because there's no shortcut to what you did to get that conversation positive, right? Yeah. But like positive sentiment demonstrates like product market fit. So it's like if you only have something that you could meet with them to talk about, kind of lights a fire under her to kind of start thinking about like selling something versus a client. Because I actually think that that's the transition that Debbie needs to make, because she always kind of thinks about working one-on-one with people and not about like business development on like how many people are in this space and how big like a digital product with her, with you could be. I just don't feel like she's really like, I mean, I know intellectually she understands it, but I don't feel like it's clicked for her with like the level of urgency that I think I'm hoping if you could kind of say, hey, look, like this is like LinkedIn comment.
People I'm ready to talk to about this.
Yeah, exactly. Got ready to people I'm talking to. Maybe you get like a comment or so. The posts are getting better. Like if Debbie sees that, I actually think she'll give you a lot of credit, which you deserve, and show that, oh, like Sarah's really making something happen. And like there's conversations going.
We'll
like,
step each other's games up, because if I see she's grinding, I want to. It's only
exactly. And then also she'll be I think she'll be more helpful for you. Like I mean what I say, that you'll probably have to extract out content for her, but once she sees what you're thinking and what you're doing, I think Debbie's going to be a helpful resource in this. It's just I don't think her mind defaults to like what micro content even means and like what an audience would find interesting. She needs you to kind of have the friction to help her see that. But oftentimes it's like the easiest path is through. If like you're posting something that is somewhat generic, 6 tips, you know, you could at least show her and say, hey, look, like we have 22 followers. I'm trying to get more. I would think it would be more helpful to kind of make this more like impactful. So it's like not just generic. And then, you know, if you're recording it, she might say, oh, well, what if we went like really deep on each one? And like, let me tell you a story about how I saw this as an example for this one. And you're like, okay, like what was the resolution? What do I take away from that? What did you tell people? What was it that they didn't see? It's like, that's where to be honest, the skill set comes in because you're thinking from the audience in mind. Because most people are like, when they tell stories, a little all over the place, and Debbie is too. So like, you got to like drive it home. Okay, well, what's the takeaway from that?
Right.
You know, if she's thinking through what your conclusion would be and what your hook would be.
Yeah.
She doesn't know what you're doing, but that's the way I kind of think of it. I'm like, I'm a copywriter.
Yeah, right. And I think we've tried to do a little bit of that with like the stories for the scripts, and it's just I'll get better the more I practice, and Debbie will get more comfortable and better at knowing what I'm trying to do the more we do it too. Like it'll become smoother for both of us.
Also, a lot of this you'll find, because like what I'm doing, it's a lot of it's repetitive. Like it's just getting better at telling the same stories over and over again more succinctly until like kind of one of them hits where the way that you said it at that time like flowed really well.
100%. I think one thing that was coming up was like some of this stuff seems like common sense, but then I was being reminded that I'm in this space. Like, don't assume it's common sense for everyone. So yes, it probably is worth saying. And also, like you said, the repetition. I know how much I'm repeating myself. That doesn't mean everyone, you know, no one has watched every video, I shouldn't assume that people are wondering why the heck I'm saying the same thing 20 times. They probably have
to say no one's thinking about you is kind of the cold hard truth.
Yeah. But no, but exactly. That's a good way of phrasing what I'm trying to say.
No one's thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves. And they're probably asking them the same question of like, is everyone thinking this about me?
Right.
They're not thinking about you. No one's paying attention. So that's why it's like, you just got to keep doing the same thing over and over again. Saying it different ways with different people at different times, and then just kind of creating a flywheel of being able to distribute it. And, you know, get creative in how you're trying to package it.
But I also think with the stories, that'll help it too. Cause I had created a ton of, or some sample posts. And then as I'm reading through them, I'm like, God, this is repetitive. But if people they're not going to get it all at the same time. They probably won't see all of them, and they're not thinking about it. So you have to be able to shift out of my mindset of what I'm creating now versus how the world will perceive it.
Yeah. Also, you don't have an audience, so it will inevitably be somewhat repetitive for a while. But eventually, what's going to happen is you're going to have, like I'm in, a more like a lot of content to choose from because you're creating like shows or like have like some level of routines. But whether or not that's like you producing content with maybe some other people in the space as like a separate thing, with a monthly meeting with Debbie, that's a thing. With your writing capabilities, that's a thing, right? So now you have a more diverse plate to kind of choose from. You don't have that right now. So it's like what you're doing.
I'm just trying to be seen right now. Right. I'm not trying to.
Right. It doesn't even matter because nobody is. To be honest, you're doing this in order to just pass the sniff test for a little while.
Right. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. But I'm saying it with things that I stand behind and I mean. It's just. But I'm going to want to say the same thing when I actually have an audience. So. Cool. I will certainly let you know how it goes. Well, we'll talk before then, but
keep me posted. I would say your biggest homework is I want to see you posting, and then also keep the A's and B's coming, because at the end of the day, to turn LinkedIn into like a revenue generating machine, you have to build a pipeline. And the only way to build a pipeline is to like have enough open dialogues of identifying enough A's and B's that at a certain point in time, if you get enough backlog like you have, it doesn't need to be a conversion today, but at least you have like enough at least knowledgeable of like who A's and B's, who connected with you, that like that they're A's and B's. Get more of those, because then it puts you in a big position of power than what most people are in, which is I don't have anyone. Like you want to be able to point to a list. Yeah, to be like, I don't know, I would like to talk to all of these people. And I feel like if I proactively reach out to them, because we've talked before, some of them will say, okay, let's set up
much
a call.
more likely. Yeah.
Yeah. That's like very important when it comes to sales. People don't like, the knowledge, you got to dig your well before you're thirsty. Like right now, you're not thirsty. That's the time to start digging and keep digging and keep digging. And then the website's up and everything's ready to go. And then it's like, if you're just starting at that point, it's going to be 3 months before you get a sale, versus doing this for 3 months and then actually being in a position where you might be able to actually like close some business. And gaining that momentum, I feel like for Debbie is also important, because she's going to get excited on the fulfillment side of things. And you don't want to do that. So obviously that's important for her to get excited on the fulfillment side of things. Well, I mean, like getting her on meetings with people.
Yeah. I'm excited for that, because that means revenue. She'll be excited for it too.
No, I'm saying she's going to be excited about that, because that's like that's her time to shine.
Yeah.
But I feel like on the biz dev role, you got to find people that she can fulfill. And to be honest, I actually feel like Debbie knows a lot of businesses, and your dad, that she could probably like fulfill quickly. But I don't know, it really bring a lot to the business if you also were able to find some people that did not go through Debbie, and they'll be, I think, really excited proud of everything. Be like, oh, this is actually like going pretty well.
Well, and I'm really excited for us to get our first customers, so we can get feedback. You know, what worked, what didn't, and then what can we tweak if needed, just to make it better. I think that, because like we've talked about, I can edit and spin my wheels or keep making minor improvements even at best, but until we actually hear from someone if it was useful and how they felt about it.
Totally. To be honest, that you got to talk to Debbie about this, but I feel like if you're getting on a call with someone that you think is a competitor and what's in it for them, like you asked, it's potentially giving them, if they want, like a discount or a referral fee, right? So it's either like a reduced rate that, affect friends and family because you have a relationship with them, or give them, like a referral, like fee. So you're selling them this, but then they're going to get some money because you're trying to get it off the ground and get that feedback and want that kind of support. I don't know. I understand like there's like some like logistics involved in that, but the only way you're going to know if it's a good fit is to not think of it like competition and more about like, well, what do you want? And to be honest, I actually find in this space, some people might be like, I'd rather the relationship or like kind of than the $1,500. Maybe they want both, and that's fine. But depending where they're at.
Like I'm gonna like most people in this space. Like I feel like you're a certain kind of person to be advocating for.
I agree.
Equal treatment, and so if it's one sale versus like potentially just having an mutually advantageous relationship or whatnot. I love the idea down the line if we could partner with someone who's like just be a funnel for sourcing, because we're gonna also get people who once we get a little bigger, getting exposure for individuals who people are going to come out of the woodwork with all specific kinds of needs, and it's going to go back to the individual looking for a job, and can we point them in a direction, and if we can say, yes, this company who we've just got this mutually beneficial relationship with.
That's why I was saying that person that you met, it's like if you could tell a company that you have people who are like,
go here.
Go here. Or like you could talk. Well, it's like the thing is you got to talk to that person eventually to understand what their business strategy is, how big their lists are, what industries that they're in, to not overpromise and underdeliver. But like if they have a service of a database of people on the spectrum who are looking for different types of roles, and then you can vet them a little bit and then be able to go to a company and be able to say that you have in your network people who are sourcing not autistic. So I'm not only going to train you, but we can introduce you to like headhunters that are looking for these types of people. It's like, that was what you always said that you could do. And I was like, how are you going to do that? Like, does Debbie have that? Like, it's easier said than done, but it seems like you might have at least a lead on someone who could fulfill that type of.
Yeah. If we could be put on some of these websites in their for employers section, say, you know, here, if you want to do it yourself version, here's some videos, you know, that we've vouched for. That would be awesome. Right. There's a host of opportunities.
So in the startup world of what I'm in, this is why I think competition's for losers, because in the startup world, when you talk to people, there's a very clear ability of most people, at least on the biz dev front, or like investors, or they're always trying to find ways to kind of help people, because it's kind of like what you reap what you sow. I think a lot of people kind of believe in that. Not everybody, but like it's more about like, how could we amplify one another? What types of clients do you look for? Who's in my network? How can I open conversations for you? Like, here's what I'm thinking. What do you do? So it's like, if you're getting on calls with people and you're trying to give them a space to share, and you're operating from the lens of, here are ways that I might be able to help you, especially as this grows. Cause I do think you might, I actually hope that you will, I think you will, is that like, as you grow a brand on social media and you get some traction, I actually think it's going to be a lot easier for you to at least feel, I know you probably don't feel that way right now, but projecting ahead as like more of the alpha in the room with somebody, because you have a more larger social media presence than them. I just believe that, like, you know, I'm not saying that you can even do anything, but it's like, if you're creating stories on Instagram and like you have virtual assistants and like, you know, you have some stable of a brand, like talking to a consultant who's in the space who does not have that, they're going to look at you as more of the authority leader, even though they might have way more like decades of experience. It's just, you know,
they don't have,
you have more eyeballs.
Yeah.
Your listserv is bigger. Like you have a bigger website. Like, it's just, you clearly have a bigger business. So I think that like you should just kind of start operating from that position of like, that's what you're trying to get to. And they're not, you know, it's fine. It's just, they're an individual. They're like what Debbie is. Yeah.
Well, some of these are established companies, but it's going to be a mix.
Yeah, it's a mix. But yeah, it kind of just depends.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. This helps a lot. I am going to put myself out there more. And
me too. We'll do it together.
I like it. All right. Yeah. No, I'm going to start a list of just like some of the, like, immediately what comes to mind when you say that. Just memorable experiences of my past, and we'll see what comes out of it. I can't wait.
Yeah. I say this to everybody. I think I've said it to you, but it's like, just remember that the concept of push versus pull marketing. Like, you want to pull people into your experience versus just pushing things out for the sake of pushing things out. People notice the difference. They might not articulate it that way, but they are, if you're talking about from your experience, the wisdom, you're sharing things that you hope might resonate with people will be pulled into that. If you're trying to like use ChatGPT to just push the top 3, whatever, you know, you could do it. It's better than nothing, but you know, you can't really expect people to like walk away being like, I'm like so into what they're doing. But if they see the consistency of you really trying to pull people in, I think that people will, like, you know, let's just, at the bare minimum, they'll increase the probability of wanting to get on a call with you or like hear you out, because at least you look like you're trying. Right. From a real place rather than not manipulative. ChatGPT. Yeah. Cool. All right. Awesome. Thank you very much. And same time next week. Yes, we'll talk soon.
See you
Bye.
soon.